G'day, Starlo here. Hot smoking's a great way to prepare fish and it can be used on all manner of species. It's particularly good with oilier fish like tailor, Australian salmon, mullet, even things like slimy mackerel and barracuda, but really you can hot smoke just about any fish. The process begins with soaking the whole fish, fillets or pieces of fish in a salty brine before drying them and exposing them to heat and smoke. The end result can be eaten as it is or used in all manner of dishes, including a very tasty dip. I'll put the recipe for that dip in the description and comments below. First up, let's look at the hot smoking process from start to finish with some trout, another species well suited to this method. The first thing you'll need is a brine to soak your fish in. The key ingredient to this is salt, but I also like to add about the same quantity of brown sugar. The big question is, how much salt? Well, did you know that a potato will sink in fresh water but float in salty water? It's true. And the best advice I can offer is to add as much dissolved salt to your brining mix as it takes to float a potato, and about the same amount of brown sugar. Dissolve the two together in hot water and pour the mix into the brining tub. Stir it thoroughly. There we go, our potato's floating. Perfect. Time to start adding the trout. I intend to smoke these smaller rainbows whole, so in they go. I've cleaned them really thoroughly and done my best to remove every trace of blood. That's quite important. The slightly larger fish I'll fillet first. Filleting trout's pretty easy and you can start at either the head or the tail. Just make sure your knife's sharp. Cut through the ribs and separate the fillet from the frame. How good does that flesh look? Add the fillets to the brine tub and make sure they're fully submerged. I like to leave mine in the brine for 1 to 3 hours. Much longer and I reckon they get a bit too salty. While the trout are in the brine, get your smoking fire going. You can use a barbecue, a purpose-built smoker, or as I am, a backyard pizza oven. I really prefer to use wood charcoal rather than briquettes as it's got less of that chemical fumey smell, although today I've actually got a bit of a mix of both happening. When it comes to smoking chips or sawdust, there are so many varieties on the market. Try a few and find out which you prefer. Personally, I quite like the flavour of hickory. Let your fire burn down to a nice bed of coals. And once the fish have been in the brine for an hour or two, pull them out and let them dry. Patting them dry with absorbent paper or putting them under a fan really speeds this up. Arrange the dry, brined trout on a tray and scatter your smoking chips or dust on the coals. You can soak some of them in the fish brine first to make them smoke slower and last longer. Once the fish is in the smoker, close the lid or the door. There's not much to do now except sit back and enjoy a cold beverage and wait. I'm actually multitasking this evening, cooking some butterflied lamb wrapped in alfoil at the same time as I smoke the trout. It usually takes anywhere from about half an hour to an hour to properly smoke the trout, depending on the heat of the fire and the size of the fish. Check them from time to time and add more smoking chips or dust to the coals if you need to. And that's really about it. Simple and delicious smoked trout. Yum. If you enjoyed this how-to video, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel and press the little bell icon to enable notifications. Until next time, tight lines and bon appetit.